Hello everybody. We thought we'd do a little short video from everyone at Regal. Well, I say everyone at Regal, Jamie and I from Regal.
Merry Christmas.
Just to talk about what a fantastic year 2020 has been for everyone, and yeah, hope for more again next year. It's been brilliant, hasn't it? What do you reckon, Jamie? You enjoyed it?
Oh yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah, best year ever.
No, in all seriousness, it's been from I think what we saw, what we thought in March, having a recruitment business and the pandemic hitting, alarm bells are ringing, not sleigh bells, alarm bells, because obviously you think everyone's going to stop recruiting. No one's going to be looking to hire. But actually, I think we were fairly lucky because of the market that we're in, and obviously, that shift, that huge, although people were doing it anyway, but that huge momentum shift to more of or even more and bigger teams working from home. Actually, that cloud and that infrastructure technology was needed now more than it ever has been. So I think, my personal opinion is we were just lucky that the market that we specialise in wasn't as affected by COVID as others. I've got a good friend of mine who runs a construction recruitment business, and pretty much within the space of a week, had lost 85-90% of his contract book. Yeah. So, although we took a bit of a hit in March with a few contractors who were finished early, I think part of that was just a bit of bad timing on their behalf, that those projects would have come to an end anyway, and where they came to an end, probably took them a bit more time to find something new, whereas the skills that they had 12 months ago, they would have walked into 3 or 4 opportunities. But I do think the market seems to have stabilised quite well after the first couple of months in March, and contractor numbers have grown. If you look at it as a pure business point of view, we're in a better place now than we were a year ago. And I think if any small business that can say that, given the year, given what's happened, you have to take that as a positive, don't you?
Definitely. No, definitely. It was a bit of an emotional roller coaster at the beginning, wasn't it? I think everybody was sort of panic stations, but there's that popular meme, isn't there, that's been flying around everywhere about the biggest accelerator of digital transformation, COVID-19.
Yeah.
So just seeing organisations rapidly move to cloud, as you said, first couple of months in the pandemic activity levels did drop off. I think, what was it, July or August? Probably the busiest month we've had.
July.
Maybe actually ever.
Yeah.
In terms of demand. But I think what it's done is really kind of shine a light on and magnify the difference in demand for certain technology areas. So I think if you're fortunate enough to have already made that transition into the public cloud space, AWS, Azure, or GCP in particular, and you're technically hands-on, demand's increased, or at very least stayed at the same sort of levels. I think if you were caught in that gap that was already a bit of a challenge in terms of being what I would call a traditional infrastructure skill set, more physical data center infrastructure, trying to make that move into public cloud or DevOps, it just made it even harder than it already was, because the application levels in terms of people available that already had that skill set, it increased. So the individuals trying to make that move, it just got even harder. So I think that kind of disparity in skill sets, it just really magnified it. So while some people have been quite fortunate, it's been a tough year for a lot of guys that we know that are
good people, right? Really good people.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
really
who would be an asset to any business.
Definitely. And I think you spoke about this before, James, in a few
I've got
videos
real passion for that.
and things around how much talent is out there that can be accessed by organisations willing to invest not even a lot, probably a month or two, to get these guys up to speed and girls up to speed. You'd have an asset in your business.
Yeah. I think.
Do you see that?
I think part of the problem with it, or part of the problem with organisations, is that they want something fixed straight away. So there's a need within a business to bring on 1, 2, 3 heads, whatever it might be. Whether that's if it's contract, is slightly different, right? So if you're bringing in a contractor, you're paying a day rate. 3 or 6 months term, they're coming in for a specific piece of work. Then absolutely, that person, you bring them in, they hit the ground running day one.
Yeah.
They're an asset like that, and your projects get off the ground. But I think and I know customers try to plan ahead as much as they can, and that's obviously really hard because technology is always changing. So you're planning ahead for technology, you know, what that technology is going to look like in 6 to 12 months' time, or what you're thinking you're going to do with that technology is probably going to change as well. So, you know, C-level stakeholders within technology, I think that's a battle they're always trying to fight, to make sure they're, you know, they're focusing on the right things technically. But I think if we could just get customers to buy in a little bit more to engage in infrastructure talent that has been on the market for, you know, 10, 15, 20 years, and you and I could probably name 20, 30 people at the top of our heads right now, really, really good people, really good infrastructure background. You know, I've worked for enterprise class, FTSE 500, FTSE 100 organisations who businesses would be really, really lucky to get walked through the door. But the business looks at the moment and thinks, you know, they don't have these 3 or 4 skills. You know, we're not even going to talk to them. And I think if you actually knew who that person was and you knew the thirst for technology that they had, although it's not on the CV, in the background, these guys are, you know, they're studying, they're doing as much as they can off their own back to be as prepared for those new technology trends, especially with the public cloud and the DevOps. But they just need an opportunity. And I think what you would breed from that, if you could get clients to understand that and take a bit of a long-term view on their hiring plans, to say, look, we need a resource to look like this, but we're going to bring, you know, Mr. Smith on board, and he's going to be ready in 6 months' time because we're going to put him through a load of training. Now, what you would get off Mr. and Mrs. Smith, or whoever it might be, I think you'd get someone who's really invested in your business, because you're giving them a chance to cross-train, and you're giving them an opportunity to, you know, move into a technology role they're really interested in. You know, they're gonna be indebted to you. You're gonna breed, I think, some loyalty. You're gonna get someone in who not only wants to work really, really hard for the company, wants to work really, really hard for themselves. And you just have to make a bit of a long-term view. You know, you put them through certifications and training everybody can do, but I think it's that on-the-job training that, you know, that candidates are crying out for. And I think when I'd done that video a few months ago, and it was about, you know, this cloud academy idea that I had, we've had some clients interested in it. We've managed to place a couple of candidates who have now got that opportunity. But it's, you know, there's a huge market out there, really, really good people who will be an asset to any business that I think clients just need to take a bit of a longer term view on.
I think it's.
And I think COVID's probably, you know, the project that I'm running to try and get that off the ground. I think COVID has probably impacted that a bit, because if you have got budget at the moment, you know, some clients, if you have got budget, you're not going to spend budget on someone who's going to be ready in 6 months' time, because you don't really know what the business is going to be doing in 6 months' time. But ultimately, I think when this all starts to go back to normal, I think that's going to be a really, really big win for Regal.
I think it's if you take a strategic view on how you build your teams, right? So it's having that mixture. So if you've got some perhaps contract resource in your team that are absolutely proven, perhaps born in the cloud, you know, have pre-existing skills with infrastructure as code, whatever public cloud platform, etc. If you've got that within your team, but you want to perhaps build a team of 5 or 10, if you can bring 1 or 2 of these individuals that you're referring to, I think you then get that knowledge transfer happening, and soon these guys get up to that level as well. I think, you know, I know, you know, we've always been advocates for contract resource and the advantages that brings in. And I think even more so with we'll talk about it more later, but the outcome-based services that you can bring into your business, perhaps on a short term, if you want that injection of immediate knowledge, if you've got these individuals that have that perhaps infrastructure background, but you're bringing these other individuals in on a short-term basis, it's not just about what they can deliver from a project perspective, it's the knowledge transfer and the documentation that they leave behind in terms of run books, etc. So that only helps bring these other individuals up to speed even quicker. So I think if you can have that kind of blend of resource within your team, I think that's what smart organisations are doing to get ahead at the moment.
Yeah, and you know, we've spoken to a number of managers this year that have, you know, brought resources on board from a cloud and a DevOps background, but from a historical infrastructure background, they haven't had the experience. You know, and that's harmed the teams, and they've had to, you know, go back out to the market for contract resource to kind of pick up the back end infrastructure. So it's finding that it's the holy grail of having all of it, isn't it? I mean, we've got some roles at the moment with a client where we're looking from infrastructure as code engineers. But there's, there's a lot of DevOps engineers who maybe don't have the back-end infrastructure experience. And I think, it's a huge market out there. And it's this idea that we've got isn't going to be right for everybody. But there is absolutely a market out there for clients to, come to us, talk to us about what their specific needs are for their specific business and their specific projects. And then us to be able to come back to them with a pool of talent of candidates who in 6 to 12 months' time, they're going to have an absolutely brilliant team. It'll be Christmas come early if they do this. It'll Christmas come early for Christmas next year.
Absolutely. Shall we talk about, or dare we talk about IR35?
We have to, don't we?
We're going to have to.
Probably don't want to, but I think we have to.
So that was I suppose, one welcome thing. Obviously in March, when, although it was ever so late in the day, the deferral happened when Rishi Sunak announced that, due to, as a direct result of COVID-19, they would defer the implementation in March, which overall, I think that was a good thing. The timing of it was suspect because a lot of organisations had already got their ducks in a row.
Well, and a lot of organisations didn't, even though it was deferred, we had it, didn't we? There was a number of organisations who had gone too far down the line, so didn't actually take any notice of the deferral.
Yeah, well, they claimed to have gone too far down the line. They could have deferred it, in my opinion, but they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I understand it though, because to then have to go back and redo all that work, what they would have been doing, they would have now been doing the same work all over again right now to get ready for March. And in reality, a lot of I think, and this is probably where me and you might disagree, I think a lot of those organisations didn't have the resource to look back and to start, just doing all the new contracts again and doing all the renegotiation again and looking at the workforce again to make sure that they were, or to just do all that deferral work again, because that resource was actually being used to work out how the current workforce was going to be engaged through the pandemic and who was going to be working from home. So I just think that they didn't have the time, didn't have the resources to actually do it properly. So just carried on with what they, with the work that they'd already done, which, I kind of get.
I do kind of get. I disagree with the way that they got there in the first place. I think just ban on using PSCs is the wrong way to go not even in the long term, in the short term. We're already seeing organisations coming out and that we know that's going to be their approach post-April next year. I have been encouraged though throughout the year to see some organisations that were going to go down that route. I think I saw something about AstraZeneca, topically enough actually, that are doing fair assessments and still engaging with contractors outside IR35 post-April 2021. I think there's a number of other larger organisations that are, I would say, engaging with the legislation at least, rather than just saying that, no PSCs. I do think those organisations will, at some point, notice that actually they're not able to attract talent in the way that they were.
100%.
And their competitors are. What do you think about how the solution landscape has evolved since it was going to be rolled out previously? Do you think this extra bit of time that's been bought has allowed organisations to have a more mature solution in place? I know certainly we have.
Well, I know. I think it's going to be a mad scramble again in January and February.
Yeah.
Much like it was this year. They have had the time. Everyone knew this was coming. There's still contractors out there that, I had a conversation with a contractor this morning who is still adamant that this isn't going to happen and they're going to defer it again. And
one of them yesterday.
It's, unfortunately, it's in law, right? It's it is inscribed into law now. It is coming in April. We as a business, I think we're much more ready than we were last year. I don't think we knew last year we weren't as ready as we thought we were, but it's definitely helped us. With our partnership with Kingsbridge now and being able to go to the market with outcome-based packages of work that have been assessed properly for outside our 35, I think puts us as a business in a good place.
I think as well, James, the ease of use of those types of solutions. So the fact that it's dashboard based, it's collaborative with the contractor and the client, it gives a determination in literally seconds, or certainly within 24 hours if it is a little bit indeterminate, The fact that an organisation can have this click-through process where dashboard-based instantly gives a determination, fully indemnifies the whole supply chain, I think it removes the argument that some organisations have that they want to remove the risk, because the risk.
Yeah, and I think that's the selling word right there, risk.
Yeah,
that is, if you can talk to your clients, talk to your candidates, and make them understand, not just us, any recruitment business out there in any industry in the UK. Talk to your clients, talk to your candidates, and let them know that actually, if you assess roles properly, and the work has to be delivered in a compliant way. You can't just assess a role for outside IR35 and then deliver it as you normally would. That work in practice does have to change. But in reality, it's not hard to get roles assessed properly and engage contractors outside of IR35 in a compliant way. There are going to be some roles out there. There are going to be some contractors out there who are just inside IR35. There's no way around it. They just aren't.
And probably should. Right?
And they probably should be, But, there's
some.
If you look at our Nimbus, using our Nimbus product as a good example, a client can use that product, can engage with a program director who's got, years of industry experience delivering huge programs of work, who can work with that customer directly and their customers' teams to work out what the key deliverables of a specific project are. We can then build a team for them. We can assess every role to be every role can be assessed properly for inside of outside of R35. And it may be some roles within that project are in and some are out, because it does depend on how that work is delivered. Everyone in the supply chain is indemnified from any investigation that might happen from HMRC. But it's a really valuable, I think, product and tool to be able to go to the market with, because I don't think there's going to be, there are going to be some competitors of ours out there who have this, but there's going to be a lot that don't. And it's, I suppose, getting the clients and the candidates to trust us that we can be seen as a specialist and can help them get work delivered in a compliant way. So I think it's, from us, it's quite exciting times. It's probably a shift in how we've delivered work historically in the 12 years that we've been going. But I think it's just a natural progression as to how contracting is going to look over the next 2 or 3 years. There's a lot of contractors out there that think IR35 is a death of contracting. It's not. It's a change, and a lot of people don't like change.
Yeah, I think a flexible workforce is going to be paramount, particularly for organisations. Cloud adoption, optimization, digital transformation. You're going to need a flexible workforce to ramp up and down.
You are.
And I think it's a funny one, really, because in a way, we've shifted the way in which organisations can consume our service, but ultimately, the end result is very, very similar. So we've, for the last 15 years, been building enterprise infrastructure or enterprise cloud teams to deliver outcomes and project-based services. And so we deliver the engineers within that project team, and more often than not, the program lead or the project manager that's running that project team. So we would ultimately still be delivering that, just taking ownership of the outcome. So I just think it's the way in which the service is consumed that's changing, but actually the level and the talent within the resource that's going to be delivering those outcomes, that hasn't changed. I think it's just a more cost-effective way for organisations to be able to consume those talent services. And yes, I think we're the best place to do it? Of course, I'm going to say we are.
Well, we are.
Yeah, exactly. But actually,
that's the end.
There are many of our peers many of our peers amongst the industry, we know have pivoted this way as well. So I think it's a mindset shift for customers, actually, to realise we can consume talent in a way that is actually much more flexible for us and more cost effective and de-risks. But because,
and I think, another thing to add there though, Jamie, is really, really strong talent as well.
Yeah.
This is
people that have walked the walk on many
the top 1 to 5% of talent out there on the market who aren't going to go and accept inside our 35 contracts because they don't have to. There's going to be enough work out there. So I think if you're a client, if you're not thinking like this now, you're going to be in about 6 to 9 months' time.
Yeah, you will be.
Because else you're going to get left behind. And we saw that in the public sector, didn't we? There was that. I know we did do loads in the public sector at the time. But there was huge projects that just didn't get delivered. And then all of a sudden, there was a big scramble around to make sure that roles were assessed individually, assessed properly in a compliant way. And all of a sudden, there was people on site at HMRC working outside of IR35. in a compliant way.
Yeah.
And then, you know, how many contractors you've spoken to this year who are working at government bodies outside of I-35 and have been for the last 2 or 3 years? There's loads of them.
Absolutely.
So I think the public sector is a really good example of what's going to happen in the private sector. There's more contractors now in the public sector now than there probably ever has been, but they're just engaged in a different way. And I think the private sector will be the same. I think there'll be 6 months where it'll be a bit rocky. You know, there'll be a bit of uncertainty, and you know, naturally things will just get themselves sorted out. People will work out how they can engage, and then everyone will carry on as normal.
Agreed. Shall we talk about remote working? The explosion there that this year, that again accelerated by COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I think again, if you look at, you know, us as a business and the types of people that we specialise in, the majority of them were doing an element from home working anyway. You know, we've got some contractors who are working probably 80-90% of the time from home. I think, you know, if I look at it, you know, from a personal point of view, what it did for me. You know, I quite liked going into the office. I like that collaboration. I like coming in and taking the mickey out of you.
You're really good at that.
Yeah, it's my niche. But you know, you missed that. I think it's good to have a balance. You know, if you look at Mrs. Rowlands as an example, you know, has been working from home since March, hasn't seen any of her colleagues, has quite enjoyed it. We've got 2 young kids, moved into a new house. Now we've got a puppy as well. So it's been good to be able to, you know, be at home, do the school run. But I'm not too sure how good it is mentally to just be indoors all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure how good. 2 things. I'm not too sure how good it is for your mental health, and this is just us personally. You know, this isn't for everyone. One, I don't think it's that great for your head, and 2, I'm not too sure how good it is for your actual work. I think it's good to actually be in an office with people from time to time, and just have that collaboration, and you know, have that bit of office banter that you might have. Just be able to, you know, you might be walking through a corridor talking to someone and having a really good idea. You know, that's not scripted in a Zoom call you have at 4:30 on a Thursday, is it? So getting that balance back, I think. But I think, you know, again, with the vaccines that are getting rolled out, it's certainly looking like Easter. Hopefully things will get back to normal. I think what it has done is, you know, the bosses out there and the organisations out there who didn't want people to work from home, who wanted a bum on a seat 5 days a week, I think it's just fast forwarded their mindset. So everyone now will be
taking their argument away, really, isn't it? Because you know, people have.
Well, that was really key when we done the the Dell Partner Forum a couple of weeks ago. You know, there was quite a lot of talk on there about that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And that was quite interesting to hear from CTOs and C-level stakeholders at Dell, explaining to us how quickly they were able to get everybody mobilised and organised and working from home.
Tens of
and
thousands of people.
They reckon it's transformed their business 10 years ahead of what it was going to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the interesting things about the remote piece, maybe we haven't quite seen it yet, but what's it going to do, and how difficult is it make in terms of measuring market salaries? Because location's always been a factor, right?
Yeah.
So if you're a remote first business, well, how do you price your salaries? I mean, I saw a really interesting tweet on this from a CEO, Dom Holland at Fast. They're one of the ironically fastest growing online checkout services organisations, and they've grown, particularly in their cloud engineering team, exponentially this year and continue to do so. And what he said on it was, how I think about salaries in a remote first world, we will continue to aggressively pursue the best possible candidates and competitively price salaries on market levels for that individual, as opposed to postcode or zip code, because we hire people, not locations.
Right.
I think broadly, I agree with that, right? If someone
I think there probably will be some firms who want a penny pinch a bit more and think, actually, we can knock 10k off a, let's use London as an example. We've got an office in the West End, and we're paying, pick a number, about 70k for an infrastructure engineer, and we only have to pay them 60k now because they're not going to be having that commute cost, and they're not going to, they're probably going to be saving that much. That person will just find another job.
Yeah,
because there'll be an organisation out there, a competitor of yours, who don't think like that. This is just the new way of working. Well, it's not new, is it? That's wrong, isn't it? It's just here a lot quicker than everyone thought it was. It was always here to an extent.
Yeah,
but I think most organisations now have realised you can work as well from home, if not better. If you've got people who relax, if you've got someone who's walking into the office at 9 o'clock on a Tuesday morning and they've just been standing on a train platform for 45 minutes soaking wet and it's taken 2.5 hours to get in, they're not going to be that happy. If they've managed to get up, walk the dog, have a cup of coffee, got the kids off at school, and they're at their desk at 10 to 9 work, you have got a happier person there. There's no doubt about it. They're probably going to want to go in a couple of days a week. Again, team meetings you might want to have, and to make sure you kind of keep that team bond. And I think that's really important. But it's all about balance now. We spoke about this years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, even, before COVID, anyone knew COVID even existed. When I first started out doing permanent recruitment, I don't want to say how long, but 16, 17 years ago, the first question you were asked by a candidate in perm was, what's the salary? Or, what's the package? The first question you're asked now, before it even comes to money, what's the work-life balance? What's the remote working policy? There's a lot of, good candidates out there now. If you go to them with a role, and, take COVID out of it because COVID is different, but if, next year, if you have clients who want everyone in 5 days a week, they're not going to get the talent on the market within tech. They're just not. If you go to them, if you go to someone next year when hopefully everything is back to normal and you say, I've got a position that needs you in the office 5 days a week, you can work from home if you've got a dentist appointment or, you've got to take the dog to the vets.
Or whatever.
But if we do have clients who still think like that.
Yeah. And
they're going to, how many candidates will just say, I'm not interested. Even if you're offering them 20, 30% increases on their base salary or total package.
Shrinking your talent pool massively.
Yeah, a lot of them won't even entertain it because they've got used to that work-life balance. And the work-life balance is important, isn't it? You can't be chained to your desk 24/7, commuting 5 days a week, and it doesn't really work. It doesn't work anymore. And I think the fact two things: it doesn't really work for candidates anymore, and there's no real need for it anymore. I think there's the difference.
No, it's hard to justify. Yeah. You're right. 5 days a week is hard to justify, particularly.
If it's different if you're a trader. If you're working for a bank and you're working on the trade floor, you're gonna be in the office 5 days a week. But that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
If you're a tech guy, they're probably going to want you working with that trade team a couple of days a week, just again for that team bond. But the need for you is not there 5 days a week. There's the difference.
I think it is slightly different for sales individuals than individuals.
For recruitment, right?
We're a case in point there. Fully remote recruitment business, it could work. Would it be?
They are out there.
Because exactly. And we went through a period of it, but I think hybrid is the way to go. I think that's
I agree.
possible.
But I think it's different. It depends on organisations as well. It depends on leaders within organisations. And I'd like to think that we are, ultimately, I think we're nice people, and we want.
Jury's out.
Well, I am. You're not. But we would want our staff to want to come to the office because they enjoy it. But at the same time, member of our staff has 3 young kids, and wants to do the school run, and if wanted to work from home completely remotely, but could still do so, then we would let them. But again, it's every individual is different as well, and I think that's what companies are going to have to realise. You can't really have a set policy for your whole workforce because everyone's situation is completely different as well.
Yeah, I think as well people find out when they're most productive in a remote space. Like for me personally, the amount of work I get done. And just in my headspace, that I feel a lot more, in the zone, if you like, particularly with creative work from maybe 9 to 11 p.m. Right, but I'd never do that if I was working 9 to 5 in the office or 9 to 6, whatever it was we might do. And I think that's even more so in tech. I know a lot of people that write code, for example, they love working throughout the evening, perhaps less effective from between 9 and 11 in the morning. So I think it's just shifted. People are more, or organisations are more focused on outcomes and what people are, the work people are producing, rather than, you know, that is the measure of success, rather than how long you were sitting at your desk. You know, what you're actually producing. I think that's healthy. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely, I agree. What are you most excited about for Regal in 2021?
One thing. One thing.
Yeah, one thing.
Do you know what? I am absolutely buzzing with excitement about our collaboration and partnership with Doc Authority. I think it's
your baby, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Do you know what? I'm excited about the value it brings, and it is a differentiator for us entering the market. But I think, you know, organisations looking to move to cloud, or if they've already moved to cloud, understanding your data landscape from a data governance perspective, and not only what data you have in the organisation, but what data do you not need in the organisation, right? So a tool that can identify your redundant and obsolete data. I mean, it does so much more than that, but even if you look at just that one faction of it, the cost savings that can bring an organisation, you know, in the hundreds of thousands in terms of unnecessary storage costs, I think it's a game changer. And I think the work that will come off of the back of organisations having a true understanding of their data landscape will empower them to make better strategic decisions. And I'm just excited and pumped to be able to, you know, that we're going to be embarking on that journey with organisations.
Yeah, and I think it's nice for us to, you know, come away, and we've been trying to do, well, we're doing this, haven't we? We've been doing this over the last 12 to 18 months. Come away from just a traditional recruitment agency and blend into that more of a hybrid model that sits between recruitment, or talent acquisition, that everyone likes to call it these days, but ultimately it's recruitment, and consultancy. I think, you know, we now sit in that kind of little grey space in the middle, and I think that's what really excites me, is the change that's going on with Regal, where we can become even more of an embedded partner with our existing clients and new clients, and, you know, and actually drive value through their tech.
100%.
So I would just like to say, from everybody at Regal, thanks to all our contractors, new for next year and existing, all our existing contractors, all the clients and the candidates that we've spoken to over this year. Thanks for dealing with us. Thanks for talking to us. Hope you all keep safe. Hope you have a great Christmas. And give us a call in January with all your jobs.
I echo every aspect of that, especially the last bit. And thank you to everybody, staff, clients, contractors, candidates, everybody out there. Merry Christmas. And
one more thank you.
Go on.
I'd like to thank you, Jamie. Thanks for putting up with me over all these years. It's great, to be honest, and people don't know this, but you're not just a business partner, you want to be best mates as well. So
I'm getting emotional. I'm doing a Matt Hancock, bit of fake crying.
Where the tissues.
No, thanks, mate. Yeah, it's been a bit of a ride this year.
Yeah,
but
it's been tough.
Excited for next year, and thank you, everybody.